Few of you, because I see a lot of people I know who don't know me, and I'm Wayne Powell, and just to quote here, with your help, I'll be sending Eric Cantor packing November 6th of this year. It's been a long time coming, 12 years of no representation. I'd say we all have a little pent-up anxiety about trying to get the country moving again. Really. And I've heard a lot from actually Madeline, of course, and I appreciate her being here, and Mudcat, and of course Christian. And so a lot of the issues have already been spoken about. But let me just say something. Although Madeline is a movie star that we all know from her long career, and a TV star from Revenge, in a metaphorical sense, and I know that sounds very democratic, in a metaphorical sense, this election this year is our revenge for Eric Cantor, who sold out this country every time he does anything. People like the veteran on the front row, like my son, who is in Afghanistan right now, and the hundreds of thousands who have been in Iraq and Afghanistan over the last more than a decade, deserve somebody who's looking out for their interests, not just when they're on the front lines, but when they're back home. And nobody's doing it in the 7th District. And the people, some of whom are in this room, and really, to a certain degree, me too, who are underwater in their mortgages, who are paying more and owe more than their houses are worth, because of the very actions that Eric Cantor accomplished on behalf of the greedy and the powerful in Wall Street and in the banking industry, who just don't give a damn about you. They only think about the bottom line, the profit. I'm not just there for me, because I can pay my bills right now, but I'm going to be there for you, because you deserve a chance to stay in your house and not be foreclosed on, and the banks need to pay for what they took from you. And they took it from everybody in this room. And as somebody, this is not my line, but if somebody once told me, and maybe it was on TV, I don't know, if they're too big to fail, then they're just too big. How about those antitrust laws that a good Republican by the name of Teddy Roosevelt made sure we had? What's wrong with going back to the future and take our country back now from the bank, the greedy, the powerful, all the people that rob us every day? Unfortunately, sadly, they're robbing us today as we sit here. All those computers are active, and they're making all those sales. They're getting ready, all geared up for tomorrow, so they can do the billions of sales. And the collateral derivatives, which are very arcane terms I didn't know anything about, except I heard them on TV, that I've learned so much about in the last year. They're still out there, and Eric Cantor is still trying to reduce those regulations, because you know those job creators out there, they can't create jobs as long as they have all these regulations like laws against fraud and theft and robbery. And there's a lot of regulations they've got to fight, you know. I understand that. And although I'm known as a defense lawyer, and a couple of I'm sure my colleagues are here from my law firm, I'm known as a defense lawyer in the community, and I did represent those men and women who were arrested back on March 3rd for free. But when I'm in office, everybody's going to forget about all my defense work. They're going to think I'm the toughest prosecutor in the world, because on the first day I'm in office, I'm going to visit the Attorney General, Eric Holder, and I'm going to say, let's prosecute those bastards that robbed us back in 2008. And I mentioned my representation. I did that as a lawyer. I don't do that to self-aggrandize, make myself seem better than I am, because I'm really just me at the end of the day. But equal rights, that was alluded to by Mudcat earlier, and Madeline gave a great speech last night at the Women's Strike Force at the Tuckahoe Women's Club. Thank you, Madeline. But let me tell you that it's real, the threats against women's rights. And I look in this room, and I don't know the number, but I would say there's maybe a majority of women in this room, and a majority of the women, by the way, are the ones who vote every November 6th. And as I've said to many people, when I win this election, it'll be because of you, all the women, and of course the men, but because the women know that at the end of the day, I will stand up and I will fight for you in Congress, and I will support anybody who will sue the people in these other states who want to make sure that they can take care of and deprive you of your rights to talk to you and your doctor. Because no politician, no governmental entity should be between you, the woman, or man for that matter. I mean, if it has to do with vaginas, then it has to do with penises as well. No one can tell you what you can do with your body. Nobody can do it. And I will stand there and I will say, it was pointed out to one of our delegates when he was making an off-color joke, and it was shown on the film last night, the Women's Strike Force, about the trans V. I mean, he was so hesitant to mention this very sensitive term. But yes, they'll pass these laws, transvaginal probes, transvaginal ultrasound, well, why not mention the P word? Why not? It's called equality. But to think that any politician, it's not a dirty word, but to think that any politician is talking about women's anatomy or what her right is to do with her body should be shamed and should be ashamed of himself and shouldn't be in office and should be voted out by a good woman. And I suspect, I've heard about this, is it Emily's list? Is that the? Yes. Yeah, the list of trying to get women to run for things. I think it's a great thing. And I suspect that in the next, I'd say in the next 4 years, I think we may have a woman president of this country, and we deserve it, and they deserve it. And let me tell you something, the men have certainly messed things up for a couple of thousand years. I think it's time for women to get up there and take a shot at it. And so I will close. Although they did tell me I should have a long speech, but oh, by the way, before I forget, oh my gosh, the reason I'm here tonight is Catherine, my wife. Without whom I wouldn't be here, because I wouldn't have done this unless I had the partner that I needed in life to support me when you need it, because you can't do these kinds of things alone. When you really mean it, and you're really trying to be sincere, and you're trying to be yourself, and she made me that person, and that's why I'm here. So I'll only say in closing that the first 3 words of the Constitution, and the last 3 words of our Pledge of Allegiance, which is the only pledge, by the way, that is important. And we all know what those 3 words are, don't we? The first 3 words of the Constitution, I bet this young man here knows, are We the people. We the people. And the last 3 words of our Pledge of Allegiance, not the Norquist Pledge, not the Eric Cantor Pledge for the powerful and the greedy, but our Pledge of Allegiance to our country, the United States of America, is justice for all. And that's where I am, and that's where I'll always be, and I'll never back down from that. And if you do happen to go to Vegas and you see Mr. Cantor at one of the craps tables with Mr. Adelson, you can bet on that. Necesitamos los latinos también. That means we need the Latinos. We need everybody. I mean, who should in this government should be telling people who can marry whom? Who should be telling people what they should do with their bodies? This is the ultimate dream of people all over the world for at least a little over 2 centuries and more. And that is to go to a place where nobody tells you how to practice your religion, nobody tells you where to live, or with whom to live, or whom to marry, and nobody tells you how you find with that very ethereal concept that Thomas Jefferson insisted that it be put in the Declaration of Independence, and that is happiness. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. I wish you all the pursuit of happiness, and I will see you all throughout these next 4 months on the campaign trail. Thank you.